Started. Welcome all my PUC first year students. So, as we have started learning the lesson Two Gentlemen of Verona by AJ Cronin. Right. So far, we have talked about the half of the lesson. So, in which we have talked about the characters, the theme of the lesson, and also we have talked about some of the core parts of the lesson. So, let us remind once again. So what we have seen so far is the characters, first of all, that Nicola, who is a 13-year-old, look at the way he has struggled throughout the story. Look at the way he has uh, look at the way he has managed himself. Why? Because he was like he had got the responsibility, right? He and his brother Jacopo. Look at the way these two brothers are struggling because they have the responsibility on their shoulder to fulfill, and they have the same mission. And what exactly they have got the mission is to cure their elder sister Lucia, who is struggling because she has got the disease called tuberculosis of spine, and she is about 20 years old. Look at the way that she is struggling because she has got the disease called tuberculosis of spine, right? And these two brothers, the way they have struggled. Next, we have seen the Luigi, who is a cautious driver. Then we have seen the narrator. Also, we have talked about the nurse and the theme of the lesson. When we talk about the theme of the lesson, what is exactly that theme means? The focused part of information, right? Or behind which the story revolves, right? Around which the story revolves, like sacrificing of love and the strength of character, as well as focusing on solution rather than problem, which helps to overcome that problem. So we are supposed to focus on the solution rather than problem. That is what we got to learn from the lesson Two Gentlemen of Verona. And also we have talked about the way these two brothers have struggled. Look at the way these two brothers were struggling and the way author has observed their struggle and their clash, right? And on the other hand, his companion also observed these two brothers, right? So let us start with next. So we were stopped with that portion wherein that Lucia, right, and the author, he himself has visited that place where the Lucia has been kept because she was suffering a lot. The village called Poletta, where she has been kept by these two brothers, Nicola and Jacopo. These two brothers are very careful for their sister. Look at the way these two brothers were taking care of their sister Lucia, who is about 20 years old, and the way she is fighting for her disease, and the way that nurse is taking care of the Lucia, right? And look at their unremitting willingness to work, to struggle, and to earn money. Because what exactly is there at the root cause? That they have been given the responsibility, rather I would call it as they themselves have taken the responsibility on their shoulder, because after losing their parents, nobody is there to look after these three children, right? And the way they are struggling a lot. Let us see. So now nurse says to the author, narrator, "Won't you go in?" The nurse murmured, "Lucia will be pleased to see you." And the way author entered in that hospital, as he entered in the hospital, that nurse says, "Won't you go in? Because when you go inside at that time, that Lucia will be very much pleased to see you," right? And he says, "I shook my head and turned away. I felt I could not bear to intrude upon this happy family." Now, intrude, that word means to put oneself deliberately right in one place, and he don't want to intrude in that happy family. He don't want to deliberately put himself, right? So that is how he said, "I shook my head and turned away. I felt I could not bear to intrude upon this happy family party, but at the foot of the staircase, I drew up and begged her to tell me all she knew about these two boys and their sister. So he don't want to be the part of their discussion, their family party. He don't want to intrude that happy family. So moreover, what he has done, he has begged, he requested the nurse, because he wanted to know about these two brothers and their struggle, what exactly has happened to these two brothers and their family, why these two brothers are struggling a lot, what exactly is there. And in a way, he has requested the nurse. She was eager to do so, and on the other hand, the nurse also was very much eager to do so. Means she is also eager to tell exactly what has happened in their life. They were, she explained, quite alone in the world except for this sister Lucia. Their father, a widower, a well known singer at La Scala, had been killed in the early part of the war. And she has started talking about their family, their background, what exactly has happened in their life. Right? Let us see next. Their father. Who was their father? A widower, the one who has lost the wife, right? So he was a widower, and when these three children were small at that time, he has lost his wife. So he was a widower, a well known singer. There might be a question for 1 mark, so better you should point it down. So he was a singer at La Scala, had been killed in the early part of the war. So there was a war, as I had told you when I was explaining the background information about the story, right? So in that war, World War II, in which he was killed, shortly afterward, a bomb had destroyed their home. Bomb had destroyed their home and thrown the three children into the streets. Look at the way that bomb had destroyed their family, and look at the way that he has lost his life. Their father, a widower who was a singer at La Scala, he also has lost his life, and so also these children have become orphan. And the way these children started living the life, that is what that nurse is explaining everything to the narrator, what exactly has happened in the life of these children. They had always known a comfortable and a culture life. Lucia had herself been training as a singer. Look at the way. Lucia, their elder sister, who is about 20 years old. Now, what exactly she has been doing? She has been training herself as a singer, and they had suffered horribly from near starvation. Starvation, they could not get the food on time because as they have lost their family, their parents. So, in a way, these children started suffering a lot because of starvation. So, these children could not get the food on time. So, that is how starvation and exposure to the cold Veronese winter. As they have lost their home because of bomb explosion, they too had lost their home, because of which they had to suffer a lot. And look at the struggle these three children are doing. So that is what the author has experienced, observed. For months, as the nurse is explaining everything to the narrator, what exactly has happened in the life of these three children. Let us see. For months, they had barely kept themselves alive in a sort of shelter they built with their own hands amidst the rubble. So after the bomb explosion, what has happened? So these children, they themselves have made the home a kind of rubble, right? With the help of rubble, means after the destruction, after the bomb explosion, whatever has been left, through which they have made a shelter in which they were living. Then the German Elite Guard established headquarters in Verona, and for 3 dreadful years ruled the city with a ruthless severity. The boys grew to hate those harsh, unwanted masters, and when the resistance movement began secretly to form, they were among the first to join. So, in a way, this German elite what they have done, they have ruled these 3 years, right? Very dreadful, ruthlessly they have ruled. And when the resistance movement started secretly forming, these two brothers, Nicola and Jacopo, these two were the first among to join. They were among the first to join, these two brothers, Nicola and Jacopo. It was not a matter of playing war. Their extreme youth and insignificant size added to an intimate knowledge of the neighboring hills. Look at the way these two brothers have joined that resistance movement when it has started secretly forming. They were the one among everyone. They joined first. Why? Because these children have experienced a kind of severity, a kind of the thing that has happened to their family, and that is how they were among the first who joined that resistance movement, because they have been given a kind of treatment which should not supposed to get. And that is how they have joined that resistance movement. Added to an intimate knowledge, they had the genuine knowledge, the severe knowledge, and the appropriate knowledge of the hills, because these two brothers have been to various parts of that Verona city, and they got the knowledge of the hills, because of which they have been very much useful to the resistance movement, right? Which made them immensely valuable, and which made them very much immensely valuable to the people, right, who were acting against this German elite guard. They were used to carry the messages to the forces of liberation. You must underline that word, because there might be a question for 1 mark, right? The forces of liberation, these people were fighting for the liberation, these people were fighting for the freedom, because these German elite guard, they have established their rule, and they were ruling very ruthlessly. So look at these two boys, look at these two brothers, the way they have struggled, and the way they themselves have proved very much useful to the liberation forces. And more dangerous still, to ferret out the information on the movements of the German troops. And on the other hand, what exactly these two brothers were doing, they were trying to get the information of the movements of the German troops, what exactly these German troops are doing. And in a way, these two brothers, being small and having an intimate knowledge of the neighboring hills, they were trying to ferret out. Ferret out means to carry out or to find out the information, right? So these two boys, the way they were trying to get the information about the movements of the German troops, that was very useful. Why? Because they have been suffered a lot. That is how they have become the part of that liberation forces. And look at the way whatever is happening here, that nurse is explaining to the narrator, means a kind of flashback is there, where the nurse is explaining every single thing whatever has been happening in their life. The good nurse broke off. Now she has become very emotional. That broke off, she is crying somewhere when she is narrating. It means she has become emotional, her eyes moist. Look at the way, because she had been a part of their family, she had been looking after Lucia for a year, and that is how she has become moist, emotional she has become while narrating the story of these children. Then with even deeper feeling, she went on. Actually, look at the feeling of the nurse, how much she has involved in their family, and the way she has experienced the experience of these two children and their sister Lucia. I need not tell you how fine they were. And again, she says, I should not tell you how fine they were. I need not tell you how fine they were. And these infants, now she's referring to the children, how fine they were, how good they were, how happy family, they were, and how they went in the darkness. Now here, darkness refers to their grief, their sorrow, how these children, has been given the darkness, has been given the sorrow, right? That is what she is explaining everything to the author. Through the mountain passes with the letters in their shoes, which might cause them to be a short. And when it was all over and we had peace at last, they came back to their beloved sister. Look at the way these two brothers have struggled. they have passed the information very secretly, and they used to carry the messages in their shoes. Had they been found, they would have been killed. But look at the way they have accepted the challenges. Why? Because they themselves have experienced the kind of life that they have been given. And that is how these two brothers have been, the part of that liberation movement, that resistance movement they wanted to be. And in a way, they have helped the liberation, forces of liberation for getting freedom. And in a way, these two brothers have been a successful, the part of that liberation movement. And the way they have dedicated their life towards the freedom, and on the other hand, they have struggled a lot throughout their life. That is what the nurse is telling, exactly what has happened in their life to the narrator. So when that moment has, and what exactly has happened, let us see. And we had peace at last. They came back to their beloved sister, and they found her suffering from tuberculosis of the spine contracted during the miseries of the war. And when everything has ended, at that time they came back and they have found that their sister was suffering from tuberculosis of spine, right, which caused during that war. She paused to quick a breath. Now again, the nurse is telling everything what exactly has happened. She has taken a breath, a break, and she has taken a breath. And the author says, "Did they give up? I do not have to answer that question. They brought her here, persuaded us to take her into the hospital." Persuaded, convinced. Look at the way these two small children, what exactly they are doing, and they have convinced the nurse, because even if they are unable to pay the bill or the money, still they have convinced her, because anyhow we'll provide whatever you are in need. So just look after our sister, because we are in need of someone who can look after our sister, so we will provide you. That means convinced, persuaded her, just admit her, right? Because nobody is there to take after, look after we people, so we want you to look after us, so we'll provide you everything. So that shows, look at the way these two children, they are persuading her, they are convincing nurse. So they persuaded us to take her into the hospital. In the 12 months she has been our patient, she has made a good progress. There is every hope that one day she will walk and sing again. And as the nurse has experienced, she says there is a chance that she has been our student for 1 year and she has made a progress. And there is a hope that one day she will again come and she will sing, she will walk and sing again. Look at the hope, look at the way she is trying to explain everything to the narrator. There is a hope, there is a will that she will walk and she will sing again the way she used to be. Of course, everything is so difficult now. Food so scarce, right? Scarce, rare, and dear, expensive. Look at the way that the author has experienced their life, because he was the one who has observed everything, right? That is how he says, "We could not keep going unless we charge." And she says, we cannot keep everything. Why? Because unless and until we have been given the, unless and until we have been paid, we cannot keep going on everything. So we have to be paid. That is how she says, we could not keep going unless we charged a fee. So we want our fee, right? But every week, Lucia's brothers have made their payment. Look at the way. But every week, without forgetting, they used to come, they used to visit, and they used to pay the bill, hospital's bills, whatever the bill would be. And every Sunday, they used to come, they used to visit, and they used to pay the bill. That is what that inspired us to look after their sister. Payment. She simply added, every end of the week, they used to come, they used to visit, and they used to pay the bill. I don't know what they do. I do not ask. Work is scarce in Verona. Scarce again, very rare. Work is rare. Nothing is proper in condition. But I don't know what exactly these two brothers were doing. But at the end of the week, they used to come, they used to visit, and they used to pay the bill. I have never ever asked what exactly these two brothers were doing, right? But they used to visit, right? But whatever it is, I know they do it well. Yes, I agreed they could not do it better. And in a way, yes, I agreed. The author says whatever they have done, they have wonderfully done, they have successfully done. And in a way, the author has understood their plight, their circumstance, whatever they have suffered, whatever they had been so far, right? And now he says, I waited outside until the boys rejoined me. Now, the author has understood everything from the nurse. Nurse has told everything about the two brothers, Nicola and Jacopo, and their sister. Whatever has happened to them, she has exactly narrated to the author, and now he's waiting outside in the car, right? He is the one who has brought these two children to the Poletta where their sister was, and now he's waiting outside for the two brothers, Nicola and Jacopo. So I waited outside until the boys rejoined me, then drove them back to the city. And we drove them back to the city. They sat beside me, not speaking, in a mood of quiet contentment. In a mood of quiet contentment. So they are satisfied, they are happy. And now they have met their sister Lucia. Now she is exactly fine, nothing to worry about. And that is how they are sitting. Look at the way they sat beside me. The author says, author has experienced. They sat beside me, not speaking, in a mood of quiet contentment. They are satisfied, contentment. Look at the way, right? For my part, I did not say a word. And when it comes to the author narrator, he did not say anything. He did not utter a single word. Why? Because he had been given the information, everything, what exactly had happened in the life of these two brothers. So that is how he kept quiet. He did not say anything. I did not say a word. I knew they would prefer to feel that they had safely kept their secret. And he don't want to utter a single word. He don't want to say something because they should feel that they have successfully kept their secret from the author, from the narrator, that they should not feel that the author is very well acquainted with their suffering, their life, whatever has happened in the life of these two children. And in a way, he kept quiet. He did not say anything. Yet, this silent, epic, youthful devotion had touched me deeply. Look at the word silent. Now, that silent is very important. Look at the way these two brothers have worked. Unremitting willingness, unremitting, wherein I talked about their willingness, continuously, relentlessly, they were working. They did not think about the day and night. Throughout the day and night, they were working. Why? Because they had something in their mind, because they wanted to do something for their sister, because their sister was there, and in a way they felt that they have been given the responsibility to complete. And that is how relentlessly, continuously, they did not think about the day and the night and kept working. The silent epic of youthful devotion, and the way they have shown their selfless love. They did not expect anything from their sister, right? Even from anyone. The way they have kept doing the work, that is very important. That is how the author says, yet this silent epic of youthful devotion had touched me deeply. That had touched the author deeply. War with its attendant horrors had not broken their spirit. Now, look at the way that the author has experienced. Now, what did he say? He says, attendant horrors, war with its attendant horrors. Whatever has happened in the war that had not broken their spirit, they have not lost their spirit, they have not lost their courage. In fact, they have managed to do everything, right? That is how author says. And if an untimely maturity is very important. Look at their age. Nicola and Jacopo. Nicola is 13-year-old. Jacopo is just 12-year-old, right? So they are child so far. If we think about their age, look at the untimely maturity they have been forced and the way they have accepted it. That is very important. Untimely maturity had been forced upon them. At least they had accepted it with dignity. And the way they have accepted the untimely maturity, that is very important here. Throughout the lesson, what we have learned, even though they are small children, just 13 and 12 years old, the way they have accepted the untimely or forced maturity, that is very important, right? And what we have learned is, even if something goes wrong, we should not supposed to lose our spirit, we should not supposed to lose our confidence and courage. Look at these two brothers, the way they have accepted the untimely and forced maturity, their selfless action, that is very important. One more time, the way I was talking about the theme selfless action, how selfless action brought a new nobility to a human life. Their selfless love, selfless action, they did not expect anything from the sister, because they understood the importance of relationship as they have lost their family, and in a way selflessly, no, they did not expect anything. And the way they were working, the way they were struggling, why? Because they had been given the responsibility on their shoulder to complete it. And that is how, what was their ultimate mission of life? To cure their elder sister Lucia, right? Look at the way both of them have shared the equal interest. Even the Nicola and Jacopo, both of them have worked hard throughout the life, and in a way, at the end of the life somewhere, they have satisfied, they have been given a successful end, right? That is how their selfless action brought a new nobility to a human life, which gave a promise of a greater hope for the human society. If we are going to behave like these two children, there is a hope for the nobility of a human life and a greater hope for human society. If almost all people became like this, then there is nobility to a human life. Definitely we will be like a nobleman. And somewhere at the end, the author has understood their struggle, their importance, and everything, whatever they have done throughout their life. That selfless action, how that selfless action has given the nobility to a human life and their promise of greater hopes for the human society. That is what we have learned from the lesson Two Gentlemen of Verona by A.J. Cronin. So here, my dear students, we have completed the lesson Two Gentlemen of Verona. Thank you so much.